Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Monday, September 29th, 2025. Larry Johnson will be here in just a moment on Trump's Ukraine dilemma. Or does he not have a dilemma? But first, this. We all know how devastating war is. Lives lost, communities destroyed. But war can also threaten your financial freedom. That's where America's heading, our growing involvement in global conflicts. It means more spending, more debt, and a weaker dollar. That's a direct hit to your wallet. So here are three things to keep your eyes on: exploding debt, declining dollar, rising prices of gold and silver. These things are already happening. Goldman Sachs predicts gold could hit $4,500 an ounce by 2026. Why? Because central banks and smart investors are buying gold hand over fist. They know what's coming and they're hedging against it. Currency collapse, inflation, and market volatility. Gold has been a trusted store of value for thousands of years, and today we need that protection more than ever. Call Lear Capital now at 800-511-4620 or visit LearJudgeNap.com. No one is going to protect your wealth for you. You need to do it yourself, and now is the time. Larry, a pleasure, my dear friend. Thank you for accommodating my schedule, as always. Before we get into Trump and Ukraine, and is this really a handoff to the Europeans, and can the Europeans take the ball and run with it, to continue the football analogy? Trump has been murdering Venezuelan. I know you've done work on this, and I want to talk about it. Trump has been murdering Venezuelan civilians, claiming they're members of the Tren de Aragua gang. At the same time, he's sending naval ships outside of right off the coast in international waters. Let's start with Tren de Aragua. How long have they been around?
First mention of them is in 2018 in press in Latin America, and I believe Peru was one of those. What makes 2018 a fascinating date is that's the date, that year, that Donald Trump, as president, authorized maximum pressure campaign on Venezuela. Now, if somebody wants to argue that that was done just diplomatically and through Department of Treasury and that the CIA was not involved, I have a bridge to sell you. Okay? So, look, during my time, I was at the CIA when we went after Manuel Noriega. And there was an analyst in my branch. She was being briefed regularly by the Directorate of Operations, who were involved with this comprehensive plan to create a pretext that would justify a U.S. invasion in Panama. Well, it sure looks to me that's exactly what's going on. Tren de Aragua is it's either a creation of the intelligence agency, or it's a group that the agency has funneled money into or encouraged to become this face of the threat to the United States. And to go out and create this narrative that that's where all the drug trafficking is coming from. I can't emphasize enough that just because you got some people in a boat and you think that they're carrying drugs, let's say that in fact they're carrying drugs, that they're transporting drugs. Just like assume that you're a cop in New York City or in Baltimore and Philadelphia, and you see these two drug dealers on the corner.
Right.
You see them go up to a car door and they sell drugs to somebody, and you see them take the money. You do not have the right to shoot and kill them. I mean, you wouldn't allow that in the United States. That would be considered murder by those police. Now, if you went up to try to arrest them, they pulled out guns, then yeah, you could kill them because they represented an immediate threat to your life or could cause grievous bodily harm. Well, we're doing the same, we're faced with the same circumstance, except we're in international waters. And in those international waters, instead of stopping the boat, seizing the drugs, we're killing them. So we're using Tren de Aragua to create this narrative. All the drug trafficking that's in the United States is coming out of Venezuela. That's a lie. but we're using it so that there is this pretext that Trump's going to attack. I don't know when, but the indications, you cannot assemble the force that we have off the coast of Venezuela and keep it there indefinitely. It's too expensive.
All right, want to talk to you about the size of that force and what they're likely to do in a minute. But back to Tren de Aragua, the recently retired chief federal prosecutor for drug interdiction cases, federal, says Tren de Aragua is engaged in human smuggling, not in drugs.
Okay.
What? A, what is Trump talking about? B, would the CIA be aiding them in drugs or human smuggling just to create this pretext? Would the CIA break the law so blatantly?
Well, we already have a recent example of, this is in Syria, with the new president, al-Shara, who was a member of Al-Qaeda, then ISIS, then al-Nusra. Then he had this dramatic break, so-called dramatic break with Al-Qaeda. He spent 5 years, I think it was at least 5 years in prison in Iraq, as David Petraeus noted the other day, while Petraeus was in charge of the military operation in Iraq. This is a guy who carried out and supervised fighters that carried out terrorist attacks against Christians, Alawites, and Shia Muslims. This was a guy who was involved with chopping heads off of people. Yet, that very guy had the backing and support of the CIA, and the CIA played a direct role along with the Brits and the Turks in installing him as the new president of Syria, even though the guy had a $10 million reward on his head for his prior acts of terrorism. And I would simply note that if you go read the State Department reports on terrorism, and for like 2017, 2018, 2019, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham was listed as one of the top 10 terrorist groups. In other words, this al-Shara carried out more terrorist attacks in 2 years and were attributed to Hamas over a 25-year period.
Is this the same human being whose butt, metaphorically speaking, General Petraeus kissed in that tape we watched last week?
Oh, yeah. Same one. So I said that this...
funded by the CIA.
Yeah.
Aware of the fact that it was cutting off hands and heads.
Yeah. It was, but this goes back to what we did in Afghanistan. We armed mujahideen, we holy jihadists, and then later used them to carry out terrorist attacks in Russia as well. So with that as a prior evidence, is it far-fetched to suggest that the agency might also have ties and connections to help create and fan the flames for Tren de Aragua to be this threat that we can justify attacking Venezuela? I absolutely believe that.
So Bibi Netanyahu created Hamas, so he'd have an excuse to destroy the Palestinians.
Yeah, well, so Hamas was a creation without Netanyahu's direct involvement, but once it was organized, then the Zionists and Netanyahu made sure that they would fund it and get money to it to keep it strong for the exact reason that you just mentioned, to destroy any chance of creating a genuine Palestinian state.
How much of an armada do we have off the coast of Venezuela? Is it known publicly?
Yeah. 4 missile cruisers, that launch. These would be missiles that could be attacked to attack inside Venezuela. 1 missile cruiser, 3 amphibious landing ships that carry approximately 4,500 Marines and naval personnel. And then you've got a variety of air assets that are deployed into Puerto Rico. So, yeah, no, it's a significant military force. Now, it's not a force significant enough to be able to attempt a amphibious landing and to try to carry out a ground attack in Venezuela. At least I hope that's not their plan, because 4,500 Marines would get chewed up in a heartbeat. But it's more likely that what the United States will do is they'll target certain areas. They claim that they're blowing up drug labs, where the actual target may be trying to kill Maduro.
Hmm.
Now, understand this program started in 2018, and I believe what happened. I don't have, can I prove this? No, but the way it would work is Trump would sign a finding, the CIA would then put together a program, and then even after Trump left office, that CIA effort could continue to go on because, frankly, it was something that the Biden administration endorsed as well, and there were a variety of efforts. Now, Nicolas Maduro, has been hollering, "Hey, the CIA's after me," and we keep saying, "No, that's a lie. You're just paranoid." So, but actually, I believe that projects, the circumstantial evidence indicates the project started in 2018. The Trump administration admitted to a maximum pressure initiative, and then they were very public about their support for Juan Guaido, who was designated as the new president of Venezuela that the United States found acceptable.
Now, a grad student in Miami, according to
Right.
Anya Parampil, Mrs. Max Blumenthal. I know I'm all over the place, but I want to pick your fertile brain. Should Benjamin Netanyahu be worried that he is hemorrhaging support in the United States of America for his genocide and starvation, particularly among young people?
Yes. Yeah, and that's why I think one of the reasons that they're trying to get control of TikTok so you can shape the narrative. But when you and I were growing up in the 50s and 60s, our information came over television, and with television is actually it was pretty easy then to get a controlled narrative because
Right.
there were only a limited number of outlets. Well, now it's not so easy. I mean, this internet thing is a real problem unless you just shut it down, because shows like yours and others on the internet, no matter how much they try to tamp it down, they can't silence it. And the people who are under the age of 30 and younger, they have no memory of the kind of what I call the Exodus generation. Those of us who grew up with the movie Exodus, which portrayed a particular narrative of David versus Goliath as far as
Right.
Israel versus all the nasty Arabs. Now they're seeing something quite different. They cannot ignore the photographs of the mutilated bodies of children in Gaza, murdered by Zionist soldiers.
You probably remember that famous one-liner, horrible human being, but very telling. President Johnson, Lyndon Johnson, saying, "Oof, when I lost Cronkite, I lost the public," because Walter Cronkite was the principal means, and for millions of Americans, the only means through which they learned what was happening in Vietnam.
Let me give you a fun fact on that. In 1968, the total audience for the news shows at night, so Walter Cronkite, the David Brinkley, and I forget who the other one was, but total audience was 54 million. Okay, and that was back in an age when we had like 180, 200 million people in the country. Cronkite audience alone was 28 million. Okay, on any given night. Today, actually, I ran these numbers in August of 2016. In August of 2016, the combined audience of CNN, Fox, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, and NBC, so both, the cable as well as the regular news shows, their total combined audience for all of them, 27 million.
Wow.
So just shows the difference in the kind of influence that Cronkite had back then compared to how sort of, watered down the media has become today.
Are the Zionists in America going to come after alternative media like the show on which you and I are on now?
It wouldn't surprise me at all. You can't. Trying to control the people has proved difficult. Remember when they got rid of Candace Owens at the Daily Wire because she was, quote, anti-Semitic in their view, just because she happened to ask some very tough questions that were not favorable for the Zionists. What happened? Well, her show, she's now like got 4 or 5 million subscribers, and the Daily Wire is in bankruptcy proceedings, or appears to be.
Right.
So, the people will follow where they find information that's fresh, that's truthful, that's candid, and that's one of the reasons your show's been growing.
What is your take? I want to go to Ukraine now. What is your take on what Trump is trying to accomplish? Has he handed off the ball to Europe?
Yeah, he's done.
Can they take the ball and run with it?
Yeah, well, he's
Two
done.
different questions.
Yeah. So he's done the Pontius Pilate thing. He said, "Hey, Europe, hey, NATO, this is your problem," and apparently not recognizing or admitting that the United States is the key member of NATO. But let's set that aside. But the only thing he said in that Truth Social post, for the truth, as he called it, that he put out last, I guess it was Tuesday, is the despite sounding like General Kellogg, Russia's losing, Ukraine's winning, Russia's economy's in tatters, etc. The only concrete proposal that he made in that was, hey, NATO can buy all the weapons at once from us here in the United States. And initially, the reaction from people like even Lindsey Graham and Mark Rutte and Kaja Kallas, the foreign minister for the EU, they were all like, yay! And then they went, oh, wait a second. The United States doesn't have any weapons for us to buy right now. We're going to have to wait a while. It's not like they got warehouses of inventory bulging out that they can't wait to get rid of. And Trump made it very clear, this is your fight, not ours. Hey, good luck. And he ended it. Good luck to both Ukraine and Russia. Good luck, you guys. So NATO, to take up your metaphor, if given a ball, they'd try to eat it. They'd be looking at it. So they're not going to be running anywhere except for cover.
So when Lindsey Graham rejoices because the president calls Russia a paper tiger and makes a hyperbolic and irrational statement like Ukraine can win back Crimea and the Donbass, does he not know that Trump is handing the ball off to the Europeans and this is a neocon nightmare?
I don't think he knew that at first. I think now with some reflection over the weekend, he probably realizes, the game is up. The Russians, have you noticed, like yesterday we heard Russia launched the most massive missile and drone strike since the war began. And I'm going, boy, this is deja vu all over again. Because I heard that a week ago. In fact, I heard the same thing from 2 weeks ago. So what Russia's demonstrating is it doesn't have any limitations. It's not suffering from shortages of either drones or missiles. And it is intensifying its attacks. And, the NATO countries, they were initially, when Trump first came out with that statement, boy, they were very belligerent in their statements towards Russia. Since then, even that wretch of a human being, Sikorsky, the foreign minister in Poland, even he's toned it down a bit. Because now that they've been, it's one thing to trash talk from the audience, and then you get called up on the stage to have to face off with Mike Tyson, and then all of a sudden, you know what? I might want to speak a little bit more respectful now. So instead of getting, clubbed to death. Russia, from Lavrov, from Peskov, they have made it very clear that as Lavrov said at the UN, we're at war with the Europeans. Europe is at war with us. He didn't say with the United States. And
he didn't say with NATO.
Correct, with Europe. But then we also have heard from, the advisors to Putin, Dmitriev and Ushakov, and they both, as we talked on Friday with Ray, they've continued to be pretty upbeat in terms of the conversations that are ongoing behind the scenes with the United States. We saw Lavrov comes out of his meeting with Rubio, and they asked him, "Hey, how'd the meeting go?" And he goes, "Hey, thumbs up." I don't think we got a thumbs up from him, did we?
No. I have to play General Kellogg. Chris, this is not the one that we just looked at. But I wonder why they're still sending him out to say these things. The two takeaways from this, cut number one, Chris, the two takeaways from this are the President of the United States indirectly authorized the use of long-range missiles that can hit Russia. Oh, and by the way, Russia's losing. He says this again. Larry, this is yesterday, cut number one.
Are you saying, though, that it is the president's position that Ukraine can conduct long-range strikes into Russia, that has been authorized by the president?
I think reading what he has said and reading what Vice President Vance has said, as well as Secretary Rubio, the answer is yes. Use the ability to hit deep. There are no such things as sanctuaries. That's one of the reasons I believe that this last week, and it has been confirmed, that President Zelensky asked President Trump to get Tomahawk missiles, which give you a depth. They're really good systems. America makes the best systems in the world.
Are we giving him the Tomahawks?
Well, that decision has not been made, but he's asked. I know that President Zelensky did, in fact, ask for them, which was confirmed by a social media post by Vice President Vance. That's going to be up to the president to do it.
Why do they put him out there to say this stuff, Larry?
Yeah, well, it makes, I guess it saves Trump time, effort, and energy. He is, it's important to note that actually J.D. Vance was saying some similar things, which again tells me that Vance, unlike Trump, does read. And Vance, I believe, also gets the presidential daily brief. So the fact that Vance is saying some of the same things tells me that this is what the intelligence community is feeding Trump. So Tulsi is having little effect at correcting the narrative. And as long as they perpetuate this narrative that Russia's losing, Ukraine is winning, it does bring with it the, if that's their attitude, I think Trump has twisted it around that, okay, well, if Ukraine's winning, why do we need to continue providing support? Because it's doing so well. This notion of, though, introducing the Tomahawk, the cruise missile, number one, let's recognize, I think that's at least 40-year-old technology.
Wow.
It's been somewhat modernized, but, I think we are at least 34 years. We were using it in the first Gulf War back in 1991. Secondly, it's not hypersonic, it's subsonic. Third, Russia's air defense systems are quite capable of shooting it down. But what makes the possible introduction of it into the theater is it is capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. And Russian military planners would have to take that into account. And that would be seen as a provocation from that standpoint. As far as this notion of hitting deep into Russia, the administration, I think the CIA embarked along with MI6 and the military, U.S. military, in helping Ukraine start to carry out attacks on some of the Russian oil refineries. The way the public narrative, and Trump has repeated this, is that Russia's got terrible gas lines and they've really disrupted the Russian oil market. Well, that's not what's actually going on. It is true in about 4 regions that are close to Ukraine, there have been damages to refineries, to oil distribution, and particularly in Crimea, there are gas lines. But in the rest of Russia, no, not a problem at all. And there's a good report that I saw yesterday on YouTube from an American expat that's living in Russia, but he went to all these different gas stations and then talked to 5 different people around 5 different places in Russia. And they're all going, gas shortage? We ain't got no gas shortage. So, but again, the West is trying to create this narrative that Russia's weak, Russia's suffering, and they believe that if only they could stir up enough discontent with Putin over the war, that it would bring an end to it. Except they're not reading the room, because the majority of Russians think that Putin's been too soft, that he's not doing enough to beat the hell out of the Europeans. So it's just, instead of cultivating animosity towards Putin that will undermine the Russian war effort, what the Europeans and the United States have been doing had the exact opposite effect.
Larry Johnson, thank you very much, my dear friend. Great conversation all over the place and I appreciate you letting me do that, from Venezuela to Ukraine. I will look forward to seeing you with Ray on Friday. All the best.
Yes, sir. I'll be there. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And the aforementioned Ray at 1 o'clock this afternoon. At 2 o'clock, Scott Ritter. At 3 o'clock, Max Blumenthal on his interactions with the president of Iran, part of which I participated in last week. And at 4 o'clock, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, Judge Napolitano for Judging Freedom.